Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel. And thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue of in-group preference because I think it's already become a huge issue, and it's causing a contraction in the proportion of the economy that's available for white people, and an expansion in the portion of the economy available to the migrant groups who are busily looking after each other on a basis of in-group preference. Now, I've done videos about this before, that even fifth generation, sixth generation Western-born Indians still have a marked in-group preference to only do business and share wealth with other Indians, rather than just purely on the basis of any form of merit. It's a family first, Indian in-group second, Indian in-group third, Indian in-group fourth, and the reluctance that they will share anything with white people it's just palpable. It's off the charts. They've got no intention. They've come to the West to take, not to give, and certainly not to share. So we need to keep that in mind. Now, the Chinese coming are the same. Even the westernized Chinese from Hong Kong are the same. Singapore, so that there's still this in-group preference amongst the Chinese. Not as bad as the Indians necessarily, but the same too with Arabic groups from the wider Arabic areas. Huge in-group preference there. And again, second, third, fourth generation on, intense in-group preference among them. Again, they're happy to take, but not to share and not to give. They do so with great reluctance, and only if they absolutely have to. Now, let me illustrate just what that means. So, it's really anyone that's not part of the Christian Anglo-Saxon sort of sphere seems to practice this. They come primarily from third world and/or incredibly corrupt countries that are based not on common good or codified law or representative democracy or impartial courts, impartial institutions, public service institutions, and the like. They come from places that are radically partisan, either along family or tribal lines. So they don't see what they're doing is wrong, or it's what will. If you white people are too stupid to do it, that's your lookout. It's not my problem. So they've come to take, also with the attitude that all these rich white countries, well, you should share what you have with us. And the only reason you're rich countries is because you stole from us anyway. Something that's ginned up and encouraged in terms of the thought process by all the activist groups, the NGOs, even our own education system, for goodness sake, in the West. So they've got no sense of guilt or conscience, nor do they see the wider ramifications of what they're doing and what will be monumental collateral damage down the road. They don't see that. Maybe some do, but so I just wanted to. There's a guy. This guy's Armenian, so this is like a province, if you like, sort of at the southern end of like the northeast Turkey and the southern end of the Caucasus Mountains around there. So that's sort of where the Armenian population is. Part of northern Iraq. There's some there too. So this guy comes from Armenia. Still got a slight accent, but he was given, as an affirmative action gig, he was given the role of like a divisional general manager type thing in a private company. Again, part of the government leaning on these guys to say, well, if you want to do business with us, you better have some brown and black people, lots of lesbians and that sort of thing. So they gave a job to this guy. This guy's not a moron, by the way, but would he have got the job in a competitive hiring process? Of course not. So still got a slight accent, but his English is decent enough. So he, as soon as he gets in there, now I sort of we were dealing with them at the time, not him directly, but some of the people around him. So I had some minor dealings with him, and Again, I didn't write him off as an idiot or anything, but certainly not someone who'd have got that job on merit. Now, this was, a little over a year ago, I suppose. And then recently we were back there doing something else. Now, I noticed how many Armenians are employed there now. And some of them they've married into people, so you can't actually pick the Armenian name, because usually I can pick the name. So, but I looked at the amount of Armenians are there. So in the just over 12 months or so since he's been there, he's managed to hire a lot of Armenians. Now, for some reason, nobody, his boss, there was no oversight. For some reason, the HR department, for some reason, his boss didn't put a stop to that. Now, if I was the boss there, I would have jumped all over that straight away. Hey, the last thing you want is a little enclave of people that are making their own arrangements, setting up like a little, company within a company to suit themselves. But it's only Armenians. He is employing Armenians. Then just looking at that, and it's not hard for me to find, so anyone could find if they wanted to, just looking through some of the contracts they were letting out, at least putting out, and the people who are winning these contracts. Again, there were no Armenian businesses around the place either bidding for or winning. Suddenly there's a lot of Armenian businesses bidding, and now they're only bidding because he's put the word out that, hey, I'll make sure you get the business. But again, the company for some reason isn't stopping this. Now maybe there's a thing. Well, gee, we've got to give the business to brown people anyway. We've got to hire more brown people anyway. So hey, who cares? That may have been the attitude at the top. No, I would have done it differently. I wouldn't have allowed any one group to take over. So if a Armenian guy there, he's brown, okay, good. But you're not going to hire other Armenians. You're not going to show marked in-group preference to not only hiring Armenians, but letting out contracts to Armenia. So he's decided that it can be more efficient if we get an outside groups to do this work. For some reason, the executive level, the board level signed off on this. And then they just turn a blind eye when he lets this business all out to Armenian firms. No, I wouldn't have allowed it. I think you can give a Chinese firm there, or I would have made sure it was all broken up so no one group was establishing, no one racial group was establishing in-group hegemony. But actually, the Armenians pretty much taken over in certainly this area of the company, and no one's stopping him. And it looks like it's even expanding. So. To the point where he even leaned on us by saying, well, look, if I approve of you guys getting a contract, because we were doing work for another division of the company, but if I approve you guys getting a contract, you have to employ my sister in a well-paid job, otherwise no die. So we're not just talking about in-group preference here, but we're talking about corruption and all sorts of under-the-table bullshit. So that's it. Now, I've done business or come across Chinese companies where they will only employ Chinese people, and they will only give the contracts out to other Chinese people, and many of those are family members, even if they're like second cousins or something. But there's this in-group preference. When they're going to spend money, it's only with other Chinese. When they're going to share money, it's only with other Chinese. If they're going to give money away, it's only with other Chinese. The only interaction they have with white people is to take the money, not to give it or share it. Now there's some indirect exceptions there, like they still go and shop sometimes at a national supermarket chain, for example, national grocery store chain. So in that sense, they share the money, but they will only buy cars from dealerships owned by Chinese. They'll only buy apartments and houses from other Chinese, and on it goes. Huge in-group preference. And if the Chinese set up businesses all around the place, whether it be hairdressers or nail painting salons, and those salons are only allowed to buy all the stuff they need from other Chinese companies. When they bring in peasant slave labour workers through labour hire firms, bring them into Australia to do the shit work and so on, they're only allowed, they'd only get a small number of, small amount of spending money anyway, but they're only allowed to spend money in Chinese businesses. And the list has got, so very, very tight in-group preference. The same with Indians. And, even the same with, again, Indians that have been 5-6 generations Western born are still showing that in-group Indian preference. And the same goes, I remember many years ago, I was only a punk kid, and I got moved in the company I was in, I got moved into the human resource, it's called personnel in those days, the human resource department, while some guy was on vacation or something like that. And I was interviewing for this job, and this guy, who I thought was quite good, I'd have given him the job, and he was like, his surname was Berg or Stein, which didn't really register anything with me, and I never sort of really thought about it. Whether someone's Jewish or not, it just never crossed my mind that it was an issue or even worthy of mention. But my boss came in, and I said, well, here are the guys. I think this guy's the best. He said, no, you looked at it and go, no, not hiring him. Oh, why not? He just sort of dismissed, oh, no, he's Jewish. He's the best candidate, I think. No. Trouble with those, and this is him talking to me, trouble with those guys is one of them gets in, they make sure that all their Jewish buddies get in. They'll show a marked in-group preference, and they'll just hire other Jews, and before you know it, Jews will have taken over the place. So I thought, well, gee, I didn't know that. So again, I didn't, that's the boss, I was 22 or something at the time. So I was okay, boss has spoken, that's it. And some other guy got hired, and that was it. And the guy, this Jewish guy who'd have been mid-20s, I think I'm thinking back now, I reckon he guessed that I'd been, it was fairly clear that I wanted to hire him, but I reckon he knew that somebody had kiboshed his application. But I didn't think much about it till some years later when I was doing business with a company that we were doing a lot of business with these guys. And one day they hired a Jewish lady as like the vice president of human resources, and she had a very Jewish name, Rachel Bergstein or something, and she. I didn't really think much about it. She was a lesbian, no less, but didn't really register with me as a big issue. And then suddenly I noticed, just over the coming months, how many Christian Gentile people were leaving the company and being replaced by Jewish people. I don't think there was a job there where there wasn't a Jewish person wasn't replacing them, and I it was so obvious, certainly to me, anyway. And I wondered why the CEO and the executive vice president, both who were Christian Gentiles, by the way, why they were allowing this to go on when it was so obvious. I mean, were they missing it? Did they just not notice it? Were they dealing with weightier issues? Now, it's not that the people that she'd hired were useless or hopeless or something. I don't think some of them were necessarily the right people for those jobs, but it didn't matter that they were a cut above the minimum or a cut above the average, even, I guess, in terms of, say, just intellectual capacity, for example, suggesting a rigorous education through the Jewish education system. Quite a lot of chip on shoulder stuff, but anyway, it doesn't matter. The point was that she was creating a little Jewish cabal, substantial Jewish cabal, showing absolute in-group preference for other Jews and Jews only. Now, I have a problem with that. Just me personally, I have a problem in as much as you have to, as you would make a judgment in a court case, or as you would listen to facts and evidence, you must hire people without even the slightest reference to an in-group preference. I'm going to hire them or favour them, and I don't know how many Jews were suddenly applying for these jobs. So the word had gone out through the in-group, Forest Telegraph had gone out that, hey, this is, Rachel Bergstein's here and she'll make sure that Jews get hired. So there was a sudden flocking of Jews amongst the applicants. And so clearly this was an orchestrated thing. This was no random, organic, natural forces at play or anything like that. But I'll sort of close out the essay with this. I was talking to some all Christian Gentiles. Now, I'm not a practicing devout Christian or anything, far from it, but I was brought up with the Christian ethic and things like the stories about the Good Samaritan and that he without sin cast the first stone. You know, sort of these were part of my formative, part of the forces that created and formed some of my views and attitudes. Now, I was sitting down with a bunch of Gentile Christians, and I didn't talk about this directly, and I was quite careful how I was phrasing things, but I said, look, there's a lot of groups around, all showing very marked in-group preference. And every time they do that, they take away a section of the economy that otherwise would be available to all of us on the basis of merit and who's providing the best products at the best price or who's the most capable. And these are, jobs, the economy, all this sort of stuff's been taken away. And they're taking away from the whole and chipping away. And every migrant group that comes in and every extra migrant that comes in that practices the in-group preference, which they all appear to, they're taking more and more of the economy away from white Christian Gentiles. And the Gentiles part isn't necessarily an issue here, but certainly white Christians. And so we've got a smaller and smaller pie being left to us as more and more of these people coming. They're not sharing, they're not giving, they're taking, and they're taking it for themselves and aggressively so. So on that, again, I didn't phrase it like this. It's much softer in the way I communicate. So I said, why don't we start looking after each other in the same way? It was really where I was going. And I got almost laughed out the room, told I was an idiot and that sort of stuff. Because, well, no, why would we do that? That's a terrible thing. What a terrible idea. So I tried to sort of say, well, okay, it's not a desirable thing to do, and I understand that, but they're all doing it. All of them are fucking doing it, and there's less and less of it left for us. Governments are leaning on you guys, me included at times, leaning us to hire as many black lesbians as we can, which again means that there's less white people getting a job. For every one of those, there's a white person who deserves the job who's not getting the job. Do you understand the wider ramifications of this? These brown and black people and so on, Armenians, doesn't matter. They can show marked in-group preference and not have a single white person on the payroll, not have a single white-owned or run company doing business with them. They can do that, and nothing will happen to them. But if the white-owned company does that, the straight white politicians, who are all globalist flunkies now, of course, will let loose the Justice Department or Human Rights or some fucking bullshit department will come after you, the white-owned company, for not hiring black lesbians, but nothing will happen to these other people showing in-group preference by not hiring any white folks. So you need to understand, where is this going? Like every day, a smaller and smaller, more and more of the economy is being taken away from merit and being taken away from being shared on the basis of merit amongst all people, amongst all the folks, all of the society. But instead, they're taking it away, and I think they have an absolute right to do so, and no one's stopping them. So we need to start doing the same thing. We need to start hiring each other and awarding contracts to each other, giving business to each other, spending money and if we don't do it, there's going to be nothing left of the economy for us other than the corrupt elites. There's going to be nothing left of the economy for us to have, because all the in-group preference people, Indians, Chinese, and whatever, will have taken all that, and there'll be nothing left. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.